Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. We're going to talk about something Donald Trump kind of let slipped out at the G7 that he was at probably about 2 weeks ago over in Europe. And I don't think he was supposed to say this to the public, but you know how Donald Trump is. Donald Trump, his mouth is so big, he couldn't keep a secret to save his mama's life. So anyway, he let slip out that we only had 4 weeks of oil in reserve in the United States. And that right there would prove that a lot of oil comes from the Strait of Hormuz. And they've been lying all along. Donald Trump has been lying all along, trying to act like we really don't get that much from them. Apparently, that is a lie. So anyway, if you remember, it must have been a few months ago, Iran said they will sell to anybody except for Israel and the United States. And not long after that, Donald Trump came up with that naval blockade. Now, why would you have set up a blockade and you don't really get nothing out of there? That doesn't make any sense. Something ain't adding up. Well, the something is we get plenty of oil out of the Strait of Hormuz. And for some reason, they don't want us to know it. So if we only have 4 weeks, that should have been told to the public. Do you know how crazy it's going to be out here? Look how crazy it got when gas stations started putting up out of fuel signs. Well, you know what? Now that the war is back on, that's going to happen again. That's going to happen again. All right. They're not chattering about peace talk. So if we're now going to be out of oil, do you know the hell that's going to break out in this country? Man, it is going to get crazy up in here. So I want y'all to hear this. And part of the video, one of the videos, you're going to see Donald Trump say exactly like that. You know, we got 4 weeks left. This is crazy. And it just goes to show you these folks have run this country into the ground. And they don't care. They don't care that they've done this. But the bottom line is the only one that's going to suffer are the people. And I think they fear the reaction from the public. That's why they're just going to keep on lying. And then when it happens, oh, well, you know, there's a reason why he's trying to get this bunker built, you know. So y'all, and I meant to tell you this too. I saw this probably yesterday. You know how Donald Trump was trying to paint the reflecting pool in Washington, D.C. to blue to make the water look like it's blue. And then the paint and everything started peeling off and all this green algae showed up in the water. Well, that situation got worse. I mean, the reflecting pool looks like a bright green. And usually ducks will swim around in the reflecting pool. The ducks are dying, y'all. When they get out there are dead ducks. And some of them that probably won't last but a few more days or a day or so. But yeah, it just goes to show you that water is very toxic. Ducks swam in the reflecting pool since it's been there. And now the ducks are dying. Says a lot. And he paid $14 million for that upgrade. And look at what happened, y'all. You can't tell me that's not a curse. That's definitely a curse. So let me share my screen so we can get started. So we're going to talk about the US running out of oil. Okay, please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you.
The United States its Strategic Petroleum Reserve is at a 43-year low. It is below 300,000, 300, is it 300 million? 300 million barrels. And 260 is considered defense cutoff. Once we hit that, which could be in a matter of days, automatically we're supposed to cut it off because that is the oil left over to fight a war. They're saying that oil could run out by the 10th to the 15th of July. And if we get to automatic cutoff, then we're going to start seeing shortages, not discrepancies. Shortages means shit just ain't there, right?
Yeah.
The world's strategic petroleum reserves, all of them, minus China, I have to add. Okay, China did not open its SPR. It is using it as a cushion. It overfilled. The world drained 35 years of stored strategic petroleum reserves in 60 days.
Yeah.
Thank you, Donald Trump. Donald Trump personally did this. What the world put together and prepared for a rainy day for 35 years because of Donald Trump's actions of attacking Iran has emptied the world's strategic petroleum reserve in just the first 60 days of the war. And don't forget, war went on further than that. And it is now at, 18 months? Oh, it will take 18 months for the United States, if the Strait of Hormuz goes back to its previous flows of oil, it will take 18 months to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve if we only buy oil and refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Just the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And that would require... Yes, what? Jacob.
Yeah, and if it goes back to normal,
big if.
If that's a big if.
Well, we've now traded strikes with Iran for the second day since the peace agreement has completely collapsed. And now we are even closer to what could be a catastrophe. The U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve is now at 19 million barrels, and it is 19 million barrels away from estimated minimum operating levels is what this is showing us. You can see where it says, let me just pull this up full screen. This chart, by the way, goes all the way back to 1989 is the first year on the chart. Let me just go ahead and remove this lower third for you so you can take a look at it. And it goes all the way up to where we are today. And we are here is the yellow arrow. We are really close to that red line. So the strategic petroleum reserves are almost to the point where we don't have any reserves. So what exactly does this mean? Well, does it mean we're not going to have any more oil? No, we produce quite a bit of oil as a country. But what it does mean is we will see inflation when, Donald Trump actually said, he even said that we were, I believe, 2 weeks away. Let me actually look at the calendar. It was June 17th that Donald Trump said we were 4 weeks away from running out of oil. And 4 weeks would be next week, the 15th. We're on the 9th today. So by next Wednesday, apparently the strategic reserves will hit that red line by next Wednesday. And that means that prices are going to go up. When people, the market, we still have oil. It's not like we've run out of oil, but markets are very reactionary. So when they know that the government can't whisk in and release more oil barrels in order to boost the economy back up, they start pricing things like, oh no, we're at that point. We don't have any reserves left. We have no money in the bank, basically. So we're living paycheck to paycheck. And if a crisis hits, we have enough oil to keep ourselves functioning on a day to day. But if a crisis hits, just very much like living paycheck to paycheck, crisis hits, you're screwed. And one thing that is a crisis is keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed. Our war with Iran, them closing the Strait of Hormuz, helped get us to that point. It didn't entirely get us to that point. Let's go ahead and pull that chart back up. It didn't entirely get us to that point. That big dip that you see, that waterfall dip before we get to, and then it kind of built back up a little bit, and now we're back down. That happened in 2022. And that was, COVID was a lot. I think this really started falling off a cliff. It looks like 2020 is when it started dropping, and then it really dropped again in 2022. So from 2020 on is when we see that dip. So we had COVID. We also had the Russia-Ukraine war, and that.
Also, we run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. There are reserves all over the world, and we would really run out. And there'll be a time when you wouldn't be able to get it. And you want to see bedlam? Also, we run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. There are reserves all over the world, and we would really run out. And there'll be a time when you wouldn't be able to get it. And you want to see bedlam?
And the crisis begins. So some gas stations in Florida have announced that they have run out of gas. In case y'all don't know, the United States does have a lot of oil, but we produce light oil, and our oil refineries process heavy oil. So we can't even process the oil we're getting out of the ground that we have. We have to send that over to other countries to process, because our plants only process the heavy oil, like from Venezuela. So now, a lot of people don't realize that the gas that we put in our car is a combination of different oils that create the gas we use. And some of those gases come from the Middle East. So we are now starting to see the crisis that's already hit Australia. Australia's already had shortages. So now it's starting to happen in the United States, in Florida. And it's going to spread because Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth have yet to actually put in mitigation measures. They never had any mitigation measures.
This right here is a chart of the United States Strategic Petroleum Reserves. This war with Iran started way back at the tail end of February, and I've made several videos about how this is very concerning and that the United States is headed for a domestic oil crisis due to the Strait of Hormuz being completely closed throughout the majority of this war. It seems as though lately it is slightly open, but again, the volume of traffic that we're used to seeing going through there, the volume of oil that we're used to receiving on our shorelines on a daily basis has not been occurring. So we have been drawing from our reserve stockpile, and it is now at the lowest level since 1983. In fact, some people are projecting that we are about 20 days out from being at or below the minimum operating level on a nationwide scale for emergency oil reserves, which is really not a great spot to be. And regardless of what they say to the press, Trump and his administration are very keenly aware of this, but they are too prideful to surrender and just end this war. I somehow missed this, but at the beginning of the month, Trump actually declared a national emergency for the food supply. He is suspending tariffs on fertilizer imports because he knows that there is not enough fertilizer getting to our farmers who obviously grow our food on a commercial scale, things that we need, such as wheat and soybeans and other commercial food products. So all signs point to this being not great. And then you pair that with the fact that today and yesterday, both Iran and the United States have traded strikes once again, and it looks like the memorandum of understanding, the peace treaty, the ceasefire, whatever you want to call it, looks like it's gone. It looks like it's gone. I don't know if we'll return to full-fledged fighting, but the last couple of days, both sides have exchanged attacks. including today. So we are turning the heat up high, and we are all just being cooked inside this boiling pot of water. And this has got to resolve itself one way or another. Trump has backed himself and the country into a very tight corner, because not only will we not survive this as a nation, but this would be a global economic recession if this continues for much longer.
The U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve is now 19 million barrels away from estimated minimum operating levels. There will soon be no longer a safety buffer to protect the world from further losses out of the strait. Once you reach this red line, you've reached a critically low level of supply. Given that this is a hard commodity that is necessary for survival, we're talking about grid shutdowns. We're talking about the rest of the world looking like Cuba. Once the pedal hits the metal, you're cooked. This is during a heat wave. People will die as a consequence of this. We'll start seeing rations. It's certainly a moment to panic. The reserve has been drained steadily since Trump ordered the release of 172 million barrels in March to plug gaps in the global supply and hold down fuel prices after launching the war on Iran alongside Israel. Once the full 172 million barrel release completes, the SPR is set to fall to roughly 243 million barrels, its lowest since 1982. That is near the reserve's estimated operational floor between 150 million barrels, below which the underground salt caverns that store the oil risk losing the pressure needed to maintain their structural integrity, per industry analysts. There will be a chain reaction if we reach that level.
Iran has a thermonuclear weapon, and we have about 9 days until we run out of oil. News update Monday, July 6th. As if we weren't already in an oil crisis, it's about to get worse, y'all. Earlier today, Ukrainian drones struck the largest oil refinery in Russia. That refinery is responsible for 420,000 barrels of oil per day, or 160 million barrels per year. And overall, it accounts for about 8% of Russia's total oil refinery. In addition to that, 3 weeks ago at the G7 summit, Donald Trump said we would be running out of the global oil reserves in 4 weeks. I'm about to play y'all a clip.
Trump was saying is we're going to run out. When he said we're going to run out in 4 weeks, he was not kidding. I did the calculations yesterday based on the Secretary of Energy's own numbers. We got it though as the Strategic Petroleum Reserve as we speak, Larry. We got 9 days left, 8 days left.
9 days until... Okay. Now, I want to emphasize that does not mean that the United States is going to run out of oil. However, that doesn't mean other countries won't run out of oil. And if you want to know what it looks like when a country has no access to oil, Cuba is ground zero. Go look up what's happening there. The Russian deputy chairman of their Security Council was being interviewed. And during this interview, he says the Strait of Hormuz has become a weapon no weaker than a nuclear weapon for Iran, essentially saying that Iran no longer needs a nuclear weapon because they can cause just as much damage, if not more, by controlling the strait. He then goes on to say, anyway, Iran also has a thermonuclear weapon in reserve. Whatever the hell that is, I could not tell you, but they have it. He also says the Bab el-Mandab Strait will be used in the event of the next war. Now, I don't know how credible that person is. However, I'm more inclined to believe it than not, because what does he have to gain by saying any of this? Anyway, I'm Ashley with the 9, bringing you news on days that end in Y. Thank you for watching.
So, y'all, it's about to get ugly up in here. Yes, it is. And yeah, the Strait of Hormuz is closed because the war is back on, and it's been closed. It never stays open long. Every time they called themselves doing this ceasefire or what peace deal, whatever the hell they want to call it, at the end of the day, it never stayed open no more than about a day. And then something happens and then it closed up again. So you really can say from February 28th all the way up until now, it's been closed. I mean, what's one day here and there? That's nothing, for real. So, what they're going to do is, for the public, it's going to run out. But for the military, they're going to reserve that oil for a war that never should have been started. That's what they're going to do. Whatever's left over, that's for the war. So it is going to cause so many problems. This is what happens when you are an oil dependent country, and we are an oil dependent country. So yeah, that's going to be a major thing. So it impacts everything. It impacts our use of gas and oil, and also jet fuel. Everything is going to have a domino effect on all of the industries, especially trucking, which we need for transporting, foods and all kinds of goods. So it is just one big old mess. I don't know why people just can't concede the fact that Donald Trump can't run this country. He can't. And y'all are terrible at maintaining things, because if you were really good, there should be no talk of running out of oil. Y'all are terrible leaders. Every time y'all do something, it turns into a disaster. We've had the worst leadership for 400 straight goddamn years. We have. These people, they're not built for running things. They think they are, though. They think they are the best. They are horrible at running things. The world is in horrible shape. Economies all across the globe are in horrible shape. And whenever you see these people, you can best believe they're stealing and robbing and taking as much as they can, just like Donald Trump and his little buddies. They're up in here stealing everything in sight. So it doesn't matter. Even if Joe Biden was in office, y'all, it wouldn't matter. If we were in this same situation, it would still be the same. These folks are going to run this world. It's already ran in the ground. We're not getting there. We've been there. We've been there. And it doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or a Republican in office. Neither one of them can run a damn thing. It's been pure hell under these people. It's been pure hell under them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to wonder what's going to happen. So what's going to happen? Are we going to shut down again? Really? I mean, how are the people going to get around with no oil in the country that can be used by the public? You're reserving it all for the military. Mm-hmm. Yeah, both sides suck. We haven't had good politics ever up in this country. It's never been good. It's always been ran by racists. It's always been too much spending. That's why the country's insolvent. The country's insolvent because of people like Donald Trump. That's why. But, to this very day, these folks run around here talking about some damn high IQ. Yeah, you must have high IQ, all right. You're high IQ and being dumb. So, anyway, y'all, we just got to look out for each other, because we know this government sure don't have our back. These politicians don't have our back. And when the stuff hit the fan, we're going to have to just make it through the best that we can. But one good thing, nobody's more equipped to make it through hard times than us, because they kept us in a cycle of struggle in this country. So because of that, nobody's going to make it through better than us. No one. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. Don't forget to pick up your hair products. And I will see you on my next live. We're going to talk about news that came out of Wyoming, where there's a deadly bacteria in the water from the data centers that's in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And trust me, they're not the only one this is happening to. This is happening all over the country. But this bacteria they said, is deadly. And ultimately, it's going to be badly contaminated like that all over the country because they are still building data centers everywhere. Do they care? No. You know why? Because these data centers are owned by rich white men. So, no, they don't care about the rest of us, and they don't care if the water around us it has a deadly bacteria in it. They don't care, just as long as they can run their data center. So I will see you at 1:45, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful afternoon. Shalom, family.